everyone. Welcome to this week's Karma Cards. I'm so excited to be here with you. There are so many messages that are coming in at this time that it's actually caused me to have a hard time nailing down what is the message to share. There are so many messages about following your path or learning how to provide for yourself on levels that you feel like you're lacking on. So if you're lacking in affection or lacking in confidence or lacking in security, right? All of these messages keep coming in about learning how to provide for yourself. But there was one message that came through that was so striking that I kind of want to focus in on this one, even though, like I said, so many messages are coming in right now. I feel like we're getting waves of healing and information, which is fantastic. And the best advice, of course, is to stay as present with it as possible rather than trying to narrow it down. Just let it come to you, and the moment it's coming, it's the right thing. That's trusting your path right there. One of the messages that came through that I thought would be really potent to share, and maybe you could relate to this, is the difference between predicting and deciding. Now, I know we usually don't put these together, predicting and deciding, but I find that a lot of intuitive people, and myself included very much so, we can get into the habit of, because we can feel the flow of energy and kind of where things are going, whether it's in your personal life or in the external world, that we almost are like waiting to see if we're on track, right? We're trying to validate our own intuition through prediction. And predictive or using prediction can actually be really passive and pull you out of what you're here to do, which is to create and to experience. So if you're trying to predict something, it's almost like you are standing back. You've made an intuitive guess, right, about what's coming or in your life or wherever you're looking, and you're sort of standing back to see if that is an accurate assessment. And sometimes that can work, and sometimes standing back is all you need to do. But I find that there's a trap in this when you are heavily relying on your intuition and becoming almost predictive, right? You're trying to predict what's coming next, that you can indeed not realize that there's an opportunity to make a decision, right? So to make a decision is to decide which way the energy goes. As a creator being, you can decide which way something's going to go if you want to really ground yourself down into the moment and make a decision about, well, this is how I'd like things to happen. And as a personal example, it's a really small one, but maybe it will help illuminate what I'm saying here, and maybe you'll see examples of it where you've also done the same thing. So I had a package that I was waiting for that was coming across the globe, and it was supplies for my business, and it got delivered on my birthday, which was exciting, or it said it got delivered on my birthday. And when I went to go check the mailbox, the package wasn't there. And so, of course, I start going through all the things about where could this package be, because I happen to live in an area where I'm on a private road. So sometimes losing packages happens, and they usually resolve themselves fairly quickly. So I did all the little checklist things I need to do to make sure that I could receive this package, and everything just seemed to be leading to a dead end. And then a couple days later, I talked to a friend, and she asked me, she said, you can feel when something is lost for good or when something's coming back to you, which I'd never really thought about. And I'm like, you're right, you can kind of tell. And she's like, so tell me, is the package lost forever, or is it coming back? And I'm like, oh, it's totally coming back. And she got that same feeling too. But nothing happened. And then the next day, which was yesterday, I was sitting there and I was doing all the things that I need to do. And, I was predicting this package is coming back, but I wasn't actively participating in it energetically. I hadn't made a decision about it. In fact, I was still on the fence. I'm like, I predict it's coming back, yet which way is it going to go, right? Am I going to lose it forever? Is this going to be a long process, or am I going to get it quickly? And I hadn't made a decision about it at all. So I was in frustration. I felt like my hands were tied and there was nothing I could do. And I was starting to get really crabby about it. And last night, and I kept checking the mailbox, right? Check the mailbox, nothing there. Nothing at the front door. Called the carriers, nothing. Just, it was like nothing was happening. So last night I was sitting in the bathtub, and as I've mentioned before, when you're in water, right, your psychic conductivity is a lot higher. And I'm hearing my team and they're like, well, what do you want to have happen? Like, what do you want here? And I'm like, well, best case scenario, I get my package and it's done. Like, I get it and it's over with. That's what I want. That is what I want. And then I kind of went down the, second best option would be this and so on. But after I finally made that decision of this is what I want, and then it was pretty easy to let it go after that point, because I was like, I've done everything I can, and whatever happens next is what happens. But it was that little moment of deciding that I hadn't done during the whole process. I finally did it last night. 20 minutes later, my husband walks in the door after work, and he had checked the mailbox, and he's like, look what came. And it was the package. 20 minutes after I made that decision. And I was like, oh, because I talk about this all the time, but I'm still human. I still forget my own tools. And so it's a small example of how powerful our decisions can be, and how easy it is to kind of too heavily rely on intuition, go into this sort of predictive state. I mean, and it was helpful. I should add that taking the time to feel the energy of this, is it mine or is it gone, right? How long will this go on? I felt into all of that, and I used that intuitive information to help me make a prediction that yes, this package is coming back to me. So it was helpful, but it wasn't until I made that conscious decision of what I want and said it, that things like started cooking really fast. I mean, that's how fast, 20 minutes, right? And I've been working on this one for days. So I just wanted to share that with you because, these things, these gifts, these tools that we have, it can be easy to like heavily rely on one over the other and maybe favorite one because it's maybe a more comfortable, like being a little bit more passive was comfortable. But these are all meant to work together, right? And I can get stuck on that in myself. I can be like, there's a key. And it's like, no, there's a toolbox, right? Not every situation needs a hammer. Some need a saw, right? So it can be easy to get overly reliant on a pattern of behavior or a way that we're focusing, which can actually start to narrow down our own creative ability. So I'm tying this back to asking, but also making decisions. So I asked my team, but then I also decided what I wanted. And then of course the key there was I also let it go, which is very hard because you want proof. Like, I don't know about you. I want proof. I want proof as soon as I make that decision that's going to happen. Well, because I was able to let it go and not fixate on it, I got proof in 20 minutes, which is great. So ask more, decide what you want, let it go. And then if you need to as well, feel into the situation, feel the energy. Does that energy have a connection to you, or is the connection gone? Right? And we can feel those things ahead of time, which is pretty amazing. So I just wanted to share that with you. This is a great time to focus on asking and receiving. There are cycles of it, right? Remember that receiving is part of the cycle of exchange. We need to learn how to not only give, but also to receive. And the moon teaches us that all the time. We have the two major phases of the moon. When the moon is full, this is about the culmination point, and from there we start to let go or give out. And then when the moon is new, it's like that empty bowl and it's ready to receive. And that's where we're coming up to. This Sunday, the moon will be new. It'll be a new moon in Aries. And I want to invite you, in case you have never tried one, to join us for the New Moon Spirit Circle. You can find information on joining the New Moon Spirit Circle on my website, blythestarlight.com, and I'll put the link right here somewhere. And when you join me, we do a whole process for lining up with the cosmic energy. We're going to practice on bringing in what we're manifesting. And we also do psychic Q&A. And the whole thing is recorded, and you get to keep a copy so that you can do it at the next full moon in Aries. All right, let's get into karma cards. For those of you who are new to karma cards, let me tell you how it works. I have 3 decks: the planets, the signs of the zodiac, and the houses of astrology. And I've already asked my team, what is the message you have for us this week? And 2 answers show up on the cards. I have answers that are action-related answers in red, or outcome-related answers in blue. And the way that you play is you tune in intuitively and feel into what you need. Do you need action steps right now? Or do you want to know outcomes for the coming week? Or do you want both? And I find that both really work together well. So while you're intuitively choosing, let me tell you the timing for this reading. This reading is for today, April 9th through April 16th. And the flavor of this reading, we have the South Node in the sign of Aries, which is where we are right now, in the 10th house, which represents both the external world and how you are in the external world, which usually comes across as public standing or career. So, for those who are choosing red, your spiritual action is remember your willpower responsibly. Okay. Remember your willpower responsibly. And I feel like that ties in really well to the little story I told you about making decisions. Another way to say making decisions is your will. It is your will. You have decided this, right? So willpower responsibly. And so it's such a perfect message, actually, because I had forgotten that I could decide what happens energetically. And I feel like the responsibly part is, again, you ask and then you let it go. You put it out there. My team often uses the metaphor of going to a restaurant and ordering food. So when you go to a restaurant and you order the food, you have decided this is what I want, and you relay that order and you let it go. You don't get up from the table and, shadow your waiter or waitress over to the kitchen and then hawkeye the chef as they're making the food. Like, are you making my food? No, we don't do that. We don't get bunched up. We relax. We sit there. We let it go. We trust that it's happening. And we enjoy the experience. And we know without a doubt that our food is coming. And that's the predominant experience that we have when we go through that process. And so you can think of your decisions, right? I will this to be so. I have decided this is what's happening. You can think of those things, and especially when you need the assistance of the universe, for example, when waiting for something to come or waiting for an answer, you really want to let that go and go into trust. It's easy when you've decided, I'm going to rearrange my furniture in my house today, right? Because there's an action that you get to take and you're the one who is instigating the movement. But there are many times where we are deciding something is going a certain way and we have to put it out there and let it go. So that's the responsibly part of this reading. So remember your willpower responsibly. The mental action at this time, reconsider what you think you know about success. I think that this is a really good reminder. I think this is something that I feel like we're constantly benefiting from, looking at our definitions of what success is, of what happiness is. Look at your definitions of what success means in your life. Many times we limit ourselves because our definition is limited. It's not us that's actually limited. It's how we are perceiving or defining our own experience that can be limited. So it's asking us to really take a moment to reconsider what that is. It might have changed. In fact, it will change. And the more we evolve, the more our definitions of things like success and peace and happiness and joy, these are all going to shift. And that's natural. It's called adaptation, right? So we're going to see a shift in what we envision success is. And we can adapt to that, and it creates expansion for us. The physical action at this time now is not the time to do it your own way and become a person of power and status. Okay? Now is not the time to do it your own way and become a person of power and status. So I feel like, again, so when we have the South Node often talks about the past. It's asking us to review many times, and it's not an action-oriented time period. So it's not a real doing period. It's a more of a reflection period whenever we get the South Node. That's why it's not the time for this. Do it your own way and become a person of power and status. When the South Node is attached to the 10th house, which is the external world, another way to look at this is not an externalizing energy right now. This is an internal intake. How are you doing things? How are you defining things? If you have to redefine what success is for yourself, how can you become a person of power and status when, your ideas around power and status are shifting? So it really is a recalibration moment. So the action, if you will, is to recalibrate. All right, let's look at the outcomes during this time period for the South Node in Aries in the 10th house. So for those who are choosing outcome, your spiritual outcome is there will not be energies to meet the challenge of your destiny. Again, it sounds negative when you hear it like this because these cards are written to go in all sorts of orders. So what we're really hearing right now is that there is no energy for externalizing right now. Again, it's a recalibration period. So I think the message here is trying to help you not go into a place of pushing or panic because all the energy is still very internalized. I mean, ever since we've hit the spring equinox and Easter, we've had a lot of internalized energy, beautiful healing energy, but it's asking you to question things. It's asking you to reevaluate, reconsider, and maybe reconstruct from the inside out right now. So when you hear this, even though it might have a negative tone to it, hear it through the lens of keep it inside right now. The juice is staying in here. There's not enough juice to share yet. Mental outcome, anxiety about your desires regarding where you're going. So because you can't really there's not going to be enough juice to get you going out there right now, this can cause anxiety, because especially for those people who are prone to be like go-getters. Hi. I like that. To all go-getters, I see you. I feel your pain. That's really frustrating. It puts us way outside of our comfort zone to just have to sit there and think about things. But that's the period that we're in. And if you want to be in a flow state, you want to trust the path, right? This is where we have to trust the path. And the path, that word to me, the path, I always think of walking, right? And I'm like, walking's an action, which means I'm always moving forward. So to stop and take a break it feels very counterproductive to me. And yet, in a real situation, sometimes you need to do that. And that's where our energy is right now. We're taking a break. So knowing that holding still might give you anxiety, I would say then the focus is on how do I balance out my anxiety. For example, I have these amazing bath salts that are there. It's called Fluid. I'll have to write it. I think it's fluid.com. These bath salts are so amazing. And I'm not an affiliate. I get no credit for this. I'm just a lover of good bath salts. But they're magnesium based and they have B vitamins in them which help deal with anxiety. And you can really feel the difference. So in this time period where you're being asked to hold tight and recalibrate, make sure that you're also focusing on how you can, cope or move through some of the anxiety that might naturally come up, especially if you want to keep moving and you're being asked to hold on for a moment. Physical outcome, trouble resulting from the honesty and strength of your career. So I think I read this somewhere else. It was really interesting, but a lot of external world and career stuff is coming up for people in this time period because we're in a recalibration, because the energy keeps going higher and refining. It does cause us to question, what am I doing, right? Especially if we've been going on and on in a certain vibration. We are upgrading. We have upgraded. We will continue to upgrade. It's natural to look at to take stock of your life and go, is this in alignment with me anymore? Does this feel right? Do I like where all this is going? And some people don't. They don't like where it's going. And I think they're getting the message that if you don't like it, why are you there? Like, why are you putting yourself through this? Because you're not serving yourself truly, and you're not really going to be able to serve anyone else because you're out of alignment with it. So, and again, this type of recalibration, it can cause anxiety, and that's why the word trouble comes up. Again, it's like the message here is you can't quite move forward in the way you maybe predicted you would, or you can't quite move forward in the way you have been. There is a change happening, and it might not be you might not have to change careers, especially if you get into it and you're like, I really don't want to. This is where I want to be, and I can ride through this. If that's what you get, that's great. Trust it. It's just this moment is asking us to stop and consider everything, and especially what's happening for us in the outside world, how we are in the outside world. And many times, like I said, it's through either public social standing or through career. So these areas might come up and say, hey, I want you to investigate me, and I want you to make some decisions here. And in this moment, they're not necessarily actionable, which means that just because you've made a decision doesn't necessarily mean an action must come from that decision. It will be a decision in energy, and you might have to say, okay, this is what I want. I want you to bring me this. And then you let it go, right? And you have to carry on and maybe go to work the next day. But now something is cooking in the cosmic kitchen because you put in the order, right? And during this period, again, discomfort and growth pains can be pretty prevalent, because especially if you're continuing down a path where you're like, I'm actually deciding to change paths, that transition point can feel a little sticky sometimes. But again, the answer here is to go into a deeper sense of trust and trust your path, right? Trust the path that you're on. It is carrying you in the absolute perfect direction for you. And like we talked about before, everything is shifting into a beautiful, different, more refined energy. And while we are trying to adapt to it, we might, trip, we might struggle a little bit, but it will balance itself out. And we can move into a deep sense of trust around that. So with that, I'm sending you so much love. I know that this part is like, I just want to keep moving forward. Take a deep breath. If you're like me, take a nice hot bath and trust the plan. All right, sending you so much love. Mwah. Bye. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so that you know the next time I release a new video. Until then, stay magical.